We've already talked about a version of A Christmas Carol, and in a way, this one is kind of another adaptation, but it's mainly a quirky biopic about the author, Charles Dickens, focusing on the 6 weeks he spent feverishly writing what would become this timeless tale, A Christmas Carol. It's similar to Shakespeare in Love, in which we're presented a story that delves into the inspirations surrounding a prolific author's famous work. But this film is far more accurate to the true origin of A Christmas Carol than Shakespeare in Love was to Romeo and Juliet. And what it lacks in accuracy, it makes up for in inventiveness and whimsical delight. It is just phenomenal from top to bottom. Very joyful, ultimately, though there's some darkness in there. It also presents the brilliance and struggles and idiosyncrasies of the creative type better than any film I've seen. And I say this as a creative type. We see Dickens struck by inspiration, immersed, obsessed, rolling through his story like a speeding bullet, only to be stopped abruptly by a random person knocking on his door, breaking his concentration, banishing his muse, and causing unimaginable frustration. And I've been there. If you're a creative type who writes or performs, creates anything, I feel like you'll be able to identify with it. We see him hit a wall, grasp with coming up with names, lines, plot points. And at one point in the film, he says something to the effect of, the characters, they won't do what I want them to do. We also get to see him flesh out the story by interacting with the characters in his mind. And it's here we get to see a version of A Christmas Carol play out. But it's not quite what we're used to seeing because it's a work in progress. And the protagonist, the real character that needs to face his past before fading into a bleak future, isn't Scrooge. It's Dickens himself. And I thought that was just a brilliant, brilliant spin on the tale. It's got a very much a British humor sensibility to it, but there's also a heavy subplot involving Dickens' estranged father, John, who is a deadbeat gentleman. And he's come to London just in time for Christmas, and Charles is just completely embarrassed by it, and he's irritated by it while he's trying to write this story. But his dad is more than a smooth-talking bum. He's a smooth-talking bum that knows his ways are wrong. He knows how he acts and what he does and how he treats people is wrong. And deep down, he feels guilty and ashamed of himself. So how does Charles respond to this lost man who has caused him so much pain in his life? And they go through some of the past of his dad being arrested, thrown in jail, Charles having to go to work as a child labor, hard labor in a shoe black factory. And for anybody that's dealt with friends or family like Charles's father, the subplot hits pretty hard. And the resolution might just make you rethink how to respond to these same kinds of characters that you may have in your life. And even though the movie is almost entirely devoid of parentally objectionable material, there's a curse or two and some scary images, it's made for adults. And I'm not sure if the kids will be interested in this, or at least as interested in this as they would be A Christmas Carol itself. When my wife and I saw it in theaters originally in 2017, we both came out saying, yeah, that was pretty good, 7 out of 10, solid. But the more we've watched the film, we've watched it every year since. And every year, we like it better and better. And finally this year, after we watched it, I said, you know what, I think this is one of the greatest Christmas movies ever made. Dan Stevens, who plays Charles, is phenomenal. And we've got the legendary Christopher Plummer as a not quite fully formed Scrooge who's ever evolving in Dickens's head, which is just great. I give it a 9 out of 10. And if you like Dickens, if you like A Christmas Carol or quirky British period pieces with a dash of Christmas cheer, go check out The Man Who Invented Christmas. Hope you enjoyed that clip. If you did, consider supporting us on Patreon. Subscribe to YouTube if you hadn't already. And we'll see you soon.